All right, so this is day 5 from Friday, June 20th. And so the first thing that I want to do is I want to take a look at the Forex Factory to kind of give us some context for the day. And so on Thursday, we had Juneteenth. It was the 19th of June. And so the markets were closed. So there was no trading. And on Wednesday, if you guys recall, we had FOMC projections and their rate policy, which they kept neutral. They didn't change at all. And so a lot of people will say, well, maybe don't trade that day because there's no news and we just had a day off, so it's a short week. We're about to get into the weekend. You look here, there's not a lot of news catalysts, but I'm an intraday trader. I'm looking for 20 to 30 points on the NASDAQ, and so that didn't really deter me from trading. If you were looking for 100 or 200 point moves on the NASDAQ, then maybe you don't want to trade this day. But let's go over to the charts now that we've looked at the news and kind of gotten the context and setting of where the market is. So the first thing that I like to look at is I like to go to the higher time frames. And so if we look on the daily chart, you can see, sorry about that, you can see the market is still in an uptrend. We're still bullish on the daily chart. If we drop down to the 4-hour, it gives us the same kind of look, right? Still an uptrend. Hourly chart, maybe we're getting a little bearish to sideways, but overall, I'm still bullish on this market just based on how we're trending. This really needs to start putting in new lows for me to start shorting. And so when it comes to levels that I was concerned with for this day, these highs, these pivots are my resistance points. So because we're bullish, I'm not looking to short up here. What I'm using them as is I'm using them as context to kind of give me a stop sign to say, all right, well, it's kind of going to flow higher from here, but as it's kind of going to flow higher, but as we get to these resistance levels, the odds of maybe sideways choppy price action or reversal are a lot higher. So you just need to use that as like a yield or a stop sign, in my opinion. So off the open, I kind of wanted this move to take place after the open. We kind of exhausted my bullish move pre-market. And so that's not terrible. There's still a little bit of room for me to scalp this higher. But again, once we get up into these levels, I'm going to be a lot less confident taking longs up here. So here's what happened. So the market rallied and we tested that pivot and we started to sell off. Now, we're kind of just chopping for the first couple of minutes here, and so I didn't take anything. I was really waiting for more of a signal. And so you can see we're getting these topping wicks up here. Buyers really aren't too much in control. Sellers haven't really taken over yet, but kind of just sideways, very wicky price action. And so a lot of indecision up here with conflicting information from the bullish bias, the bullish intraday timeframes, but the resistance zones on the hourly chart. So I made a mistake here. I got a little greedy. I've won a lot of trades in a row the past 2 weeks. If you guys have been following me, I'm up like $2,600, $2,300 on the PAs over the past 4 trading sessions. And so I'll admit I made a mistake here. I kind of wanted to push this and I got long right here. And in my opinion, according to my playbook, this really shouldn't have been a long. For various reasons, there's just not a lot of room up here, especially when we're at these resistance areas. If I really zoom out, it's not going to show in the 1 minute, but go to the 5 minute, you can see that this is an area that, there's been a lot of selling in the past 2 sessions when we've gotten up here into this box. So, I guess I could just draw this out to make it very visual for you. As no trading is a visual thing. So, I'd really like for this to all clear. And then I can say, all right, well, now we're headed for this high. Now we're headed for this pivot up here, and now I have room. But until that really clears, I don't really want to be looking for longs. And I know that. It's a part of my playbook. It's, you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have the emotional ability to stick to it, you can run into issues. And that's what I ran into on Friday. So I took that long and got stopped. So let's just see. Got a little bit of bullish momentum and then market fell right into my face. And so after that, there really weren't many buying opportunities. We were kind of just selling off for the morning. And so to me, what I need this to regain bullish momentum. And it really wasn't. We were just drifting lower the entire session. So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. And you can see that this really just isn't great price action. But what I do like is, I'm still bullish on the high time frame. So I still have a bullish bias, even though we're selling off hard. A lot of times you can get kind of a mean reversion type of trade when you're this bought up over VWAP and you dump hard into VWAP. A lot of times it'll act as a support zone. And so these couple of candles, if I throw volume on here, I probably should have it because it shows you guys um, just a little bit of just a little bit more context. This was significantly higher volume than we've had the rest of the session. You can see that the only time we had higher volume was right off the open, which is to be expected. That's always that. It's usually going to be the highest volume. And so I was watching this pretty intently, and this really isn't a part of my playbook, but I took this long here. So this was a big candle, and I like to put my stops below, like anyone else would. And that was a little bit too much risk for me. If I got in on the open here, it was 909, and it would have been like a 22, 23 point stop. And so I entered, I don't know, somewhere around here, around 900, right around that whole number. And so my thought was, do I be greedy and try and really press this to get back to some of these EMAs or potentially these highs? Because, you're looking at this, the high time frames are bullish. We're going into the weekend. Maybe this just retraces this whole move and rips back up to here. But even though I kind of lost it a little bit in regards to my emotional discipline this day, I did a good thing here and I just scalped this. So I really just took this long here and I really just wanted like 30 points out of it. So I got in around 900 and we got a nice reaction there and I closed it around 930. And you can see that once we got into this EMA, we started to encounter some resistance and this market continued to roll over. So, I made the right decision, but hindsight is 2020, obviously, guys. You got to have a strategy, a playbook that you're going to stick to. And I kind of veered off the path today. So, you know, the results are important because you want to make money in trading, but sticking to the process really is the most important thing. And I didn't really do that today. And it definitely, although I made money, caused me some more emotional stress than I should have had. This really should have been a no trade day for me because after we bounced off this VWAP, I wanted to see us. What I was waiting for is I was waiting for us to retake these EMAs, put in some higher highs, and then get some bullish price action going higher. And we just didn't get that. So, yeah, my laptop's dying. Nice. All right. Let's take a look at the performance for the day. So you can see I made $770, but I took some losses on those trades. And so I ended up trading way more than I should have. And honestly, it was a pretty crappy day for me, just considering the fact that, this is supposed to be a one and done, easy type of morning trading strategy. And it was pretty clear off the open I wasn't getting along, and we were opening right into these resistance zones. So most likely, this should have just been a no trade day for me. And that's something I'm going to need to work on in the future because this really just was a bearish day. And so, I ended up getting, I guess you can call it lucky, and came out with a nice profit, but good end to the week. If we just look at this week's trading data, see if I can get this to load. It isn't loading for me. See if I can reset it. So if we just look at this week's trading data or performance, this isn't loading. So anyway, I'm up on the week, about $1,000 for the week. Still up about 1,000 from the last week. So here you go, 1,400 for the week. So, still would like better numbers than these. Definitely had some bigger losses than I wanted to. but still an overall profitable week. And we're just going to get better from here. So this is only day 5, and I'm just going to keep working at it and keep refining. So thanks for sticking with me, guys. If you think this is interesting, if you guys are interested in this or any other financial topics, I'm happy to chat in the comments. Um, but again, this is really just for me to keep myself accountable and log my trading results over the long period of time. So the goal is to get 100 days logged. And so, let's keep it pushing. All right. Thanks, guys.